Call the October 18, 2022 meeting to order. Please join us in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call?
Supervisor Fisher?
Yes.
Clerk Newbeck here. Treasurer Brown?
Here.
Trustee Aliaga?
Here.
Trustee Nalamothu? Here. And Trustee Ritchie?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Unless there is a different motion, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Then all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved as presented. Board announcements. Okay, I'm going to make a couple announcements. One is everybody should be aware that there is a police millage on the ballot. I know there are a lot of other millages, but this is a really special and important one for the township. And if there are any issues that people have on the police millage and the wording and the language, please call me. I'd be happy to discuss it with you. I did put a little note in the Township Times trying to explain some of the provisions that we have heard questions on, but if you have any questions, we want everybody to be aware of this millage proposal. It's really the exclusive source of the funding for the township. One other quick thing is the DDA. I've been working on the DDA for several months. The actions that are now in process on that, I have met with SEMCOG. In fact, they came out here to review Dixie Highway with us. We have a legal counsel, and I've also had meetings with Oakland County Economic Development. And based upon where we are, Dick Carlisle and that was a blast from the past. My old law partner. Dick Carlisle and Brian Ottman are working on a new district map and development projects that would be presented to the DDA and the board. DDA bond counsel that was retained by the board is planning amendments to the township ordinance to update it from where it was previously so that we can move forward. There are a number of actions that must be taken going from here. It'll be necessary to appoint a new DDA board. This has been inactive for a long time, and that's the supervisor plus 8 members of this board that will ultimately be subject to approval by the board, by the township board. Appointment of a citizens council. That's 11 members, residents in the district, and that sometimes is more difficult because this is along a commercial corridor, but there are residential areas, so we'll have to appoint them and seat them. The DDA board is going to then review and make a recommendation on a new DDA plan and a tax income and financing plan, and make a recommendation on those to the township board as well. And the township board will then conduct a public hearing and review and hopefully approve the new DDA plan and tax increment financing plan. The Citizens Council would then have an opportunity to review that and report back to the township board, and then the board would adopt an ordinance that would approve those plans, and then we'd be headed and forward in the right direction. And as Kim Feigley reminded us, we really need to get this approval, all these approvals, all these actions taken in a timely way in order to take advantage of the tax increment finance potential as a result of the new value increases that have occurred over the last year, which is really the lifeblood of value increases are the lifeblood of a DDA tax increment finance arrangement, just as it was for the Corridor Improvement Association arrangement for authority for Sashabaw. And so I have not made any appointments or recommendations. If the board would like me to do that, I will, just to get the ball going, because it's something it's a job for the supervisor. But I am sensitive to the point that my term will end in roughly a month. And so, as I say, I'd be happy to get the ball rolling. There are approvals that ultimately have to be made and approved by the board. So I'm open to whatever the board wants to do, but I wanted to bring to your attention the need to take action on this program in order to make it viable as a result of the tax increases that have occurred, or value increases that have occurred over the last year. And that's all I have. Anybody else?
I just have a statement about that.
Yeah.
Can you just clarify for the public that's listening, the 8-member board is appointed?
Yes.
And the citizens are volunteer and they're still approved? Or can you just, on those 2 boards, explain to everybody if they want to be involved, how they go about doing that?
Yeah,
please?
if you want to be involved, but you have to, first of all, you have to be in the district. And the district will be the corridor along Dixie Highway primarily and down White Lake. Brian is going to be preparing a more formalized map that'll show the location. And we, in my discussions with Brian and Carlisle, we have identified some areas of residence that we can draw from. The business people would be, people along Dixie Highway. And for example, I believe in the original DDA, Forrest Milzow, that owns property that goes out onto Dixie Highway, was a member of that board. Another natural would be Katie Bowman, who has the dealership at Dixie and M15. So that we need 8 members plus the supervisor, and the supervisor will be Jose, in all likelihood, and great odds, be the supervisor. And the residents, sometimes they're more difficult to bring along because they've got to spend some time working on it and meeting and making some recommendations. And they'll all work with Brian and Carlisle once they're appointed. So they are appointed from the district, though, primarily.
Just had another follow-up to that. I think it would be helpful if you would give us a timeline, maybe prepare a timeline and some of your thoughts so that the board has that, so we kind of know.
Okay, I'd be happy
I
to.
think that would be very beneficial.
Yeah. Maybe we make it an agenda item so that we can just talk about it.
Yeah, I would like to know more about that for sure.
Sure. And we can bring Carlisle, and Carlisle and Brian can make presentations as well. And if you want me to throw some names in there that can be chosen from, I'd be happy to do that. So just let me know. Anybody else have an announcement?
Jerry, part of that transition, I would like maybe to schedule a time that you and I can talk about these two.
Sure.
So
Sure.
we can have a conversation. Maybe we'll follow up with an email. And
Sure.
Maybe next week or something.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any announcements by the public, including people online? Hearing none, we now have public comment for matters that are not on the agenda. You could have 5 minutes. Be recognized, come to the podium and state your name and address and give us your comment, please.
My name is Evangelist Jadakis. My wife and I live at 8990 Woodlawn Avenue, Clarkson, Michigan. Excuse me. My wife and I are here regarding the Thednero 1 Special Assessment District. Now, we went to the tribunal and won our case, and you requested, put in a reconsideration. It was denied. My wife and I respectfully request that you comply with the judge's final order and remove us from the district and refund our finances. We'd also like this recorded in the minutes, and I'd like to have something in writing also. That's what I have to say.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Anybody online? Seeing none. We do not have a public hearing this evening. Presentation, we have a presentation of a report by Paul Brown, Treasurer, the second quarter Township Investment Report.
So I'm gonna do this from the podium. I have some stuff up on the screen. Well, I can't really, oh, there we go, I can see it. Okay, should have everything up here now. I'd like to recommend that we get a small monitor here so that it's easier for the people at the podium to actually click on things. I'm struggling a little bit. My eyesight's not as good as it was when I was a kid. All right. So it's been a while since we've done an investment report in this fashion. I have the investment report up in front of us. For folks at home, one of the requirements, because the township invests public monies for safekeeping, is we are required to present quarterly investment reports. And so that is the purpose of this. We're going to see some numbers that probably are going to be a little bit shocking, but if you understand what's been happening with interest rates over the past year, especially this year, I think I'll be able to explain where we're at. And then I'm going to talk, once I go through the investment report, I want to get a little bit into the details of some of the investments as a way to help not only the public, but some of the board members understand how we're at where we are right now and what the plan is as we move forward, given the continued volatility in the interest rate. So in front of us here, we have the quarterly investment report. I will point out that the investment reports are required to be filed quarterly. Our investment policy requires it to be done within 50 days of the end of the quarter. We have not been following that. We actually were notified by our auditors that there is a deficiency last year, and if you don't know where to look for it, you'd almost skip past it. And it's a non-compliance with laws and regulations. The township did not present investment reports to the township board at least quarterly on a quarterly basis as was required. The result of this being in our financials and the first quarter investment report being presented, the board did make a motion back then that this second quarter would be presented from the podium so the board could discuss it. One of the things I plan on doing is bringing the investment policy back to the board, because I want it to be tightened up so that there becomes a requirement that investment reports are presented as a presentation in front of the board versus put at the agenda item at the end as something that someone can read. I think it's critical, and as we go through this investment report and see the significant unrecognized losses that the township currently has, that's the kind of thing we've got to have out in front of the board on a regular basis and discussed, because when people start asking about it, I don't want people caught off guard and not understand where we're at. So I plan on bringing that to the next meeting and asking the board to tighten some things up relative to those requirements of the treasurer's office. Because we don't want this to happen again. So the investment report. So what this is going to show us, and I put a little dialogue in here. The Federal Reserve has raised rates 5 straight meetings as of 9/30/22. You'll notice that I'm using 9/30/2022 in part of this discussion. The reason for that is I think I don't do justice if I talk about where we were June 30th, knowing there's been significant changes in the last 90 days. So while this report is for June 30th, the September 30th report will be on the next meeting. And that will have us timely and caught up. In this case, they've raised rates, as everyone knows, significantly through the year. They intend to continue to raise them. I would be surprised if they don't raise them another 3/4 of a point next month and possibly another 1/2 a point in December. Now, as you look through this, the unrecognized losses as of 9/30 were $1.2 million approximately. And as of the end of June, that number was $749,000. As you see on here, I've started keeping track historically of what that looks like. I think it's important to watch that. It was $500,000 in March, $750 approximately at the end of June. It's $1.2 million today. Now, that's a scary thing at first, but what you have to recognize, and what I'll show you momentarily here, these are unrealized losses. So the township has assets that have gone down in value. And the reason that happens is because we buy things that have a fixed interest rate on them. As soon as the feds raise interest rates, anything that anybody holds that is below that rate decreases in value. And we're required by the governmental accounting standards boards to actually report unrealized losses and gains. Now, the average citizen out there, they don't report their losses and gains until they sell it. Government's required to have those disclosed in the financial statements when they happen, even if you haven't sold it. I think it's important, and this was brought about, I think in 2007 or 2008. They changed it because a lot of communities weren't showing how much money they had in losses that they hadn't sold, and no one knew about this really bad thing that might happen. So I think it's important to put it out here, explain it, and make sure everyone's comfortable with where we're at. I'm not uncomfortable with the $1.2 million in unrealized losses because I know we're not selling those and we're going to get all that money when those items mature, and I will show that to you momentarily. Relative to the other components of this, investment types, this shows the breakdown of the different types of investments we have. Federal agency issues, government investment pools, that would be what we have with Oakland County. Federal agency issues are going to be things like U.S. T-bills, U.S. government-backed mortgage paper. Those are the safest investments in the world. And they're all triple A rated, and so we but usually are heavy in those. We have money in savings and checking accounts. Certificates of deposit are something that we have. CDARS is another type of certificate of deposit. And Michigan government bonds. Those would be investments in bonds that are issued by other Michigan entities like schools or cities who issue bonding for their financial needs, and we are allowed to purchase those. From a maturity standpoint, you'll see that 68% of our money is liquid. It's 1 day. This is a good thing, especially with the rates going up the way they have been. It puts us in a position maybe better than some folks. And while I haven't gone out and looked at where the communities are as far as their losses go, I suspect a lot of them have much more significant losses than we do. So down here we report the credit ratings. What you'll see here is that more than half this money has no credit rating. The reason for that is that the county's pooled investments is not rated. And so that's a big piece of this. We had when this was put together, $24 million with the county's investment pool. I tend to not want to have as much there. I don't like the diversification of that. It's too much in one spot. I've already drawn that down by about 20%, and my plans are to probably do it more than that. I want to see a distribution of the investment type that has a lot more pieces of pie in it. The more we diversify it within what we're allowed to buy, the safer we are if something happens in any one of those sectors. So down in here, you'll see the total value. Now, the total value of the portfolio, we include cash that we have. Maybe that's a little different than some folks might be used to, but I think it's important to look at the total number that we have and where that's at. The cash is just treated as a liquid asset, and it's in our checking account. That number can go up high, especially at the end of the year, because we're collecting a lot of taxes right at the end of December, and we can often have more in our checking account than we really want, but we have to report what's there on the last day of the month. And so keep that in mind. You may see a big number in a checking account, in this case, $14 million in JP Morgan's checking account. That was in June. Well, in June, we're collecting summer taxes, start being collected. A lot of that money actually goes to the schools and the other entities who we collect taxes for. So that number can change. Below that, we'll see the amounts that are in investment accounts. We have money in three different ones: multi-bank securities, Comerica securities, and in the Oakland County investment pool. In this case, we send the money there, and Oakland County's people are working on investments in the same fashion that I would look for investments. They just got a lot bigger pile of money and a lot more people doing it. Oh, sorry, I didn't know that popped up there. So, I never like just doing that. And again, part of this looks at the average weighted maturity of what we hold. The average weighted maturity is 1.32 years. We are required to compare this to the benchmark yield of a T-bill. Our current yield, or the rate of return, is 0.79%, and the benchmark's 2.8%. This is a little bit, normally we'd be a lot closer on these two. It's a little deceiving because the benchmark yields have risen dramatically as the interest rates have been increased over the previous months. And probably more than any other time since I've been part of the township, I think a lot of people in the community understand rising interest rates more than they have before, because it's happened so much in the last months, and everyone's reading about it or seeing it in the paper. What I want to do next is actually go to one of our investment statements. I think this is an important thing to show, and I've highlighted a few investments that I think will help. I'm going to try to make it big enough that we can all see it. And we'll jump down to some of the highlighted things I have here.
Why don't you arrow over on that
So
side
let me
menu
get
there?
down. Here we go. I'd like to close this, but
Yeah,
it's not
just move that
closing.
over. Oh, it won't do it?
Just click on it.
Hmm?
Click on
Can you
it.
click on that arrow?
Click on the
Yeah, I'm
arrow.
clicking on it.
Oh,
Nothing's
it's not
happening.
doing
Yeah. That's okay, we'll manage. So, what you'll see here, this particular section, these are CDs. And let's go down to one, well, we probably do want to see a little more. Let me make it a little smaller so we can read it here. Okay. So, this is a JP Morgan Chase Bank CD. There's a lot of information on here, and it can be a little confusing at first. The rate of return on this is 0.65%. The original date of this item was February 26th of 2021. Its maturity date is 8/26 of 2026. We bought it on 7/27 of 21. So we bought it last year. So this was sold on the open market by someone who already owned it and wanted to sell it. Because interest rates were headed up, we actually bought it at a discount. So we paid $497,250 for this CD. Its face value is $500,000. Now, this thing going out as far as it does, what we see over here is that we've lost, as of June, or actually, this is actually a September statement. So as of September, we had lost $63,000. The market value of this right now is $434,000. If we sold that tomorrow, we'd lose $65,000. Again, the reason is because our interest rate is low and it goes out 4 years or 5 years. Actually, it goes out 5 years from the date we purchased it. So what's going to happen to that, I can explain if we go up above. And I think I've said this before a number of years ago when I did these. As we get closer to the maturity date, the loss declines to zero because it pays out $500,000 when it matures. We will earn the interest at 0.65% over the five years. We will not recognize the loss. It won't happen. And really, in a lot of ways, you can't always control this because nobody really knows what the Federal Reserve is going to do with interest rates. Up above is an example of why I'm not concerned. So this is something that we bought in 2019. It had an interest rate of 2%. And it matures in, let's see, 10/17 of 22. It actually matured yesterday. And what you see here, if I pulled up the statement for this a year ago, or even, let's say 6 months ago, there was a big loss on it, maybe $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. That loss at the end of September was $98. That's because we're almost to the maturity date. That loss was zero yesterday, and we got $230,000 back. So the same thing's going to happen on these others. There's big losses, and I'm going to jump to one more because somebody once told me people can take bad news, but they can't take no news. So you might as well go to the worst example. Okay, here we've got a federal home loan, and again, this is highly rated through. It's a U.S. government-backed security. And we bought it in March of 2021, $2.5 million worth. Excuse me. Again, this was bought as a used item, so someone else was selling it. Excuse me one second. I'm not used to talking so much. So we bought it at a discount. We paid $2,487,500 for it. The interest rate on it is 0.4. Well, the interest rates have gone up significantly. Our current loss on this item is $282,000. It's unrealized because we haven't sold it yet. I'm not worried about it because I know we will never have to sell that. We have plenty of liquidity. We won't sell this until it matures and we will have that money back. But this is what's generating the $1.2 million in unrealized losses. So I think that kind of gives everybody the flavor of what I'm talking about. One last thing I want to show is my strategy as we move forward. One of the things I keep is and it's really a requirement for our year end. So one of the things the auditors ask for at the end of the year is this work paper so they can do what's called footnote 3 in the financial statements. They're required to do that and talk about our deposits, where we keep our money, and this lets them analyze that data. I use it for a different reason, and what you'll see here is I've got the investments we currently hold, and these items are all on either Comerica's statement or the statements from one of the other entities. I put these in here and sort them by maturity date. And what I try to do, you'll see here, we have, there's the 230, that matured yesterday. There's $930,000 is going to mature in November. We've got a $304,000 item that's going to mature in December, another $900. My goal here is that as I buy investments, I want to fill up this sheet so I have things that mature every month. I call it laddering, right? So I want to ladder out the investments I do so that somewhere between $750,000 and $1 million becomes available every month so that we can cover our expenses, but at the same time I'm covering expenses, I'm always trying to have that money investment to get some kind of a return for us. I think it's important to mention a couple things that I didn't mention earlier. The investment policy really gives 3 things that we're supposed to be doing. Number 1 is protect principal. We never want to have losses. Number two is to make sure we have liquidity so that when the money's needed to pay the township's obligations, it's available. The third thing, as long as you don't mess up 1 and 2, is to try and get a rate of return. But the rate of return really means nothing in the long game. Because this is not our money. We're not trying to go out there and make money. We're making sure we protected it because it's taxpayer dollars and we shouldn't be playing with it. So that's what our investment policy tells me to do. And by the way, the investment policy is something that was put together and approved by the Board of Trustees. Again, we'll look at that at our next board meeting. So for me, as I look at, for example, I pulled 20% of the money out of the county's investment pool yesterday. I will be looking to do investments to fill this up so that I can have some maturities, because I don't have anything that's going to mature in January, February, March, April, May, or June. And so you can see I've sort of plugged in here, because now when I know what I'm looking for, I can start reaching out to the brokers we deal with and say, what do you guys have in these ranges? 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 4 month. They'll send me things and I'll try to get quotes on them from other folks to make sure I get the best price I can. And I buy them and I start filling this sheet up. This sheet gives me a comfort level that I got my eyes on everything we've got, what the rate of returns are. There's a lot more to it. There's a whole section over here that I calculate out the weighted average maturities and the cost basis of it and what our average rate of return is, because I do have to report that. So maybe I went a little fast and I got people maybe, blurry-eyed from all that, but I'm happy to take any questions. And
Anybody questions on the board? Ron?
Just a comment, I guess the gist of what you're telling us is that the unrealized losses that you showed would only affect us if we needed to sell the investment to get the cash to pay some bill or whatever. So as long as we maintain good cash flow with the rest of our money, that we should never have to sell that at a loss.
that's correct.
So.
Okay. Anybody else on the board? Comment, question? Anybody in the public? Comments from the public? Yes, sir.
I got a couple comments. One
Sure.
is,
Please come up to the podium and provide us with your name and address, please.
my name is Vincent Bazone, and I live at 7925 Foster Road in Clarkston. And Paul, here's my questions. One is, it looks like interest rates are rising. What effect, if any, will that have on our investment? Or are they locked in at these percentages that they're locked that we have?
Yep. Do you have another,
Pardon me?
do you have another question?
Yes.
You can ask all of them and then I'll.
Okay. I wanted to, first I wanted to thank you for an informative presentation. It was interesting and I never understood how
Mr.
the
Bazone?
money worked.
Mr.
Okay.
Bazone, to the extent you can, please speak into the microphone because people
Oh,
can't hear you
okay.
otherwise.
Sorry. Now I forgot the other question that I had. I remember now. You know, when we look at these interest rates and then we look at the maturity in the future, one of the things that we're not looking at, given inflation, is the buying power of those dollars at the end of that time. So it may be $200,000. Today is not $200,000 5 years from now, that's all. That's just something to keep in mind when these, when you're looking at terms. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So the biggest impact on interest rates, and I already know what's going to happen for us, they're going to raise rates next month, and they're going to raise rates in December, and my $1.2 million unrealized losses is going to become 1.5 or 1.6 million. I guarantee it. I know what's going to happen. But again, we're not going to sell those in 1 second. And again, we're in pretty good shape because we have so much money that we have liquidity with. So we have a big portion of that, and I think we're in a prime spot to be able to, again, ladder these investments out. Where possible, I want to put some things a little further out to get some of these current rates that are climbing, but I'm probably going to wait till next month because, like I said, it's a pretty solid bet that they're going to raise them again. But primarily, rates aren't my biggest concern. My biggest concern is that we never have to realize the losses. That's my number one goal, is to don't lose money. So, Cheryl?
Should I have you?
Sure, please.
Pretty sure. Cheryl Janakis, 8990 Woodland Avenue. That was a great flow chart, Paul. My only question, is that APR then, not a fixed? That's APR, right?
I'll answer for you.
Okay.
So that's a good question. Our rates are the rate of return, and for most of these, it's a stated rate. So if I look at, and I think I already closed it, you'll see two numbers on the investment report. The rate on the certificate. So if I've got a $500,000 certificate and they're paying me 2%, I'm making 10,000, right? And if I look on that, it'll say my actual rate of return is not 2%. It will say it's 2.04, 2.05. That's because I bought it for less than $500,000. So if I bought it at a discount, my rate goes up a little bit. If I paid extra for it, if I paid $510,000 for it because it had a better rate of return, my real rate of return drops a little bit. So you're kind of correct. There's flexibility in that rate. Yes.
Okay, anybody else? Anybody online? Seeing none, thank you very much. Appreciate the report.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. And we have 4 items on the consent agenda. Number 1, meeting minutes from October 4, 22 for the Township Board. Number 2, a request to approve the October 11 check run in the amount of $264,205. Ratify October 14, 22 payroll in the amount of $333,000. And a 2022 external wire EFT ACH transfer activity of June, July, and August in the amount of $1,073,136.23. Okay, that's all number 2. Number 3 on the consent agenda is a request to approve Clarkston Community Education Agreement, an agreement between the township and the school district with regard to reception services in connection with Parks and Rec and seniors. And number 4, a request to approve a correction of a clerical error in a resolution that was sent out in connection with District 2 of Fendera, that although the notices to the public were accurate, we understand the identification of the parcels on a resolution that we passed were incorrect, and so we are going back to the last correct position we made, and we're correcting course on that, and that is number 4 on the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve or to remove any of the items from the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion from members of the public? Anybody online? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda, items number 1 through 4 is approved. That takes us to the regular business, and for this part of the agenda, members of the public will have 5 minutes to speak to each item as you wish, and using the same procedure as we used for public comment. Item number 1 is a request to approve first reading of a proposed amendment to Chapter 50 of the zoning ordinance, Section 11.08, Lake Access Regulations. This is a matter that had been before the board, sent back to the Planning Commission for review and action, and it is now back before the board for first reading.
Yes, correct. The supervisor stole my thunder a little bit there into
Sorry.
my introduction. So, but yes, this is an amendment that covers boat docking or mooring And it's essentially the same as what we previously had. It's just there's some holes that were in there and some gaps that were filled by this proposed amendment. Again, nothing's changed in terms of the intent. You're not allowed to park boats and create a multifamily situation. And it does allow for special use approval for unimproved lots, lake lots or outlots, to go through the special land use process through the Planning Commission to get a certain number of boats. If you'll recall, this was sent back to the Planning Commission for really to clarify 4 different items. One was making sure that special use approval wasn't required for the purpose of swimming and day usage. The second was language to clarify the ordinance that only applies to motor and engine powered boats, so we're not covering kayaks and canoes. And clarification that the PC shall place restrictions and conditions on special land uses, and language to just address the fact that special use approval, if that is obtained by a petitioner, it's their responsibility to go through any state agency to get required permits, whether it's Eagle or some other agency. So the Planning Commission discussed this and found that the language that was sent back, once we talked about it and it was clear, things were clarified, they felt like the language was satisfactory, and they've sent it back to the Township Board as a recommendation of approval. I think that basically covers a brief introduction into it, and this is a first reading, so we'll be back shortly for a second reading.
And I want to, before we turn it over to the board, I want to point out one additional item that came to our attention as a result of Paul Brown's review of this. He made a good point. In those situations where a proposal is approved by the Planning Commission for a special land use, one of the things that the Planning Commission will do is approve a location for the docking adjacent to the shore. And the way that we had that was that that the docking would be toward the center of the watercourse frontage in order to minimize the adverse impact on adjoining riparian properties. And Paul, as Paul pointed out, am I stealing your thunder?
No, but I can, yes, I'll talk. I got a quick synopsis of it. In my mind, I thought about 2 different scenarios. One is you have a piece of land that sticks out into the water in its center. The instructions here would have the dock being put at the place where it's most likely to cause problems for people trying to use the lake. And so that doesn't make sense, and we certainly would want the Planning Commission to have some flexibility in that. Another situation might be where you simply have a straight piece of property, and over on this side it's abutted by wetlands, and over on this side you have some residential properties. In that case, you really want it maybe closer to the wetlands and farther away from the riparians. So I think this fixes that, and Jerry wrote that, and it looks real good, Jerry.
Thank you. And it basically gives the Planning Commission standards to use in locating the dock in the appropriate place. Okay.
So somehow when we do this, we just want to incorporate that.
Correct.
into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, a lot of the discussion from the Planning Commission was all about discretion. So I think
Yes.
this plays right into
Yes,
what their intent was.
right. Members of the board, any questions, comments? Any members of the public wish to address this? Anybody online? Okay, then open this floor for a motion to approve a first reading of this amendment, including the amendment of subsection D3B as presented to the board.
I'll move to approve the introduction and first reading of the ordinance, including the amendment, Part D, B.
D like dog?
D like dog, B like boy. To amend the Charter Township of Independence Ordinance Code, Chapter 50 zoning ordinance, revisions to Section 11.08 relating to lake access regulations as presented, and schedule the second reading on the next available Board of Trustees regular meeting following the required publication.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion by the board? And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call?
Oh, roll call, yes, thank you.
Clerk Newbeck, yes. Treasurer Brown?
Yes?
Trustee Aliaga?
Yes.
Trustee Alamothu?
Yes.
Trustee Ritchie?
Yes.
And Supervisor Fisher?
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. Thank you, Brian. Item number 2 is a request to approve professional engineering services proposed by DLZ Michigan with regard to a new, what we call a fuel farm out at the DPW property to provide fuel for our vehicles in light of the physical condition of the facilities. Mr. McKee?
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we're looking for board approval for a DLZ for the design phase of a new fuel farm at the DPW building. Just as a quick background, in June of this year, doing our routine checking, monitoring of our underground storage tanks at DPW, we found that the diesel tank that is underground right now, the inner tank failed. They're steel double-walled tanks. It's a tank inside of a tank. In June of this year, we had alarming systems on there, and it went off, and we had it checked out, and we discovered that the inner tank had failed, which means the only thing holding all the diesel fuel into the ground is the outer tank. So we immediately began taking the tank out of service and put emergency provisions in right away to get temporary diesel fuel tank installed at DPW to keep operations going. Our diesel users, our big ones, are the fire department's #1, then DPW, Parks and Rec even uses a little bit of diesel too. So it's imperative that we have that going. So just a little history background, if the board remembers back in 2021, I believe it was last year, there was fuel tanks that were at Fire Station 2. Thank you. I keep 2 and 3 mixed up. 2 that had been there since in the mid-late 80s. They had a failure of one of those tanks that leaked into the ground. Thank God we dodged a bullet there and got those tanks out of service and dug up and taken out of the ground before there was really an environmental impact there. But those did leak. A lot of dirt was removed there to remediate that. We don't need to have that happen again. With those tanks being taken out over at Fire 2, that left the tanks that were installed in the early 90s at DPW as the only source of fuel for all township equipment and vehicles. So with this happening, we put the wheels in motion right away to get a design going here to install a new fuel farm. Ironically, we did talk about this a couple years ago, 3 years ago or so, with previous administrations about doing this because seemed like we were filling up at Fire 2 quite a bit because those tanks were smaller. But as things moved on, we just didn't get much traction on this. This one's kind of forced our hand right there. So to make things move, and I put together a little slideshow here just to kind of show you some of the things that we've done at DPW. This is the existing fuel site that we have right now. Those 2 tanks on the left side that you see there, those are real temporary diesel tanks that we had brought in right away from our fuel vendor to accommodate us with fuel for diesel anyways. The unleaded gasoline tank is still underground. That one, there's no alarms on that. They're installed at the same time. It's just a matter of time, you know. And personally, I've had experience with this. We need to get out of the underground tank business, period. It's just bad business. It's an environmental disaster if you don't take care of things. So this is kind of just a couple quick slides of what we had to do right away. This is some concrete pad that we had to pour next to the existing pumps that would handle these. These are the temporary tanks that are larger in capacity that we're going to have installed there for diesel fuel, and these will be what we will use moving forward temporarily until we have a new facility constructed if the board agrees to that. But this is definitely a long-term short fix. I guess that's the way I want to put it. You know, this is something that we can live with for a little while here, much better than the smaller ones we fill up twice a week. We have to have vendors come twice a week. This is kind of the proposed site. DPW yard's pretty big right here. If everybody's been there, but those who haven't, when you pull in off to the if you're pulling in from off of Fleming's Lake Road, right off to the immediate left, there is a large area that's a fenced-in area. We keep surplus equipment there that's going to go to auction, and we keep some stuff there for DPW. This is the general area of where the new facility would be located, in this area here. So, and this is, like I said, a couple years ago, we actually looked at it. I apologize for this drawing. It's not real clear. This is just a conceptual drawing. And this is the one that was decided upon between us and the fire department. We consulted with the fire department, being that they have the largest vehicles. We wanted to make sure there's turning radius and it's not trying to pull a semi into a small parking lot. We did all that, and this is kind of the concept that we were looking up in the locations. This is more of the location of anything. So we can pull in and not go around the back of the DPW building, that you'll stay right in front right there. And there's kind of the driveway that we come pull in right there. Pull in, swing around, or come in off to the left, and either way. And we, like I said, we did get with the fire department and their largest fire vehicle. We made sure that there was enough turning radiuses and everything for that. This is kind of the concept that we're looking at. These is 2 tanks right here with fueling stations underneath the canopy. That's kind of a code right now with the state of Michigan, is to have canopy over your fueling stations in above ground tanks. This is what's the design concept that we really do like. We do like this. Keeps all the piping out from underground. There's not a lot, nothing underground. That's something that we got to watch out. This is a bigger one, so it's kind of a combination between the two. I don't think our tanks will be that big. Those are pretty big ones right there. We're looking at 2 10,000-gallon tanks.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
As I recall, in the past, the tanks were up above ground, and all of a sudden they started putting them underground.
Years ago, they used to, a lot of farms always had everything above ground.
Yeah.
And
When did they start putting them underground?
real estate. You bury something in the ground, you can drive over it.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So you create a little bit more real estate there. But unfortunately, the average lifespan of a steel tank is 20 years.
Yeah.
These are 27. The ones at the fire department were over 30. And, you just, you bury anything metal, it's going to rot.
You got
It's
to
gonna
be
rust.
lust.
And then you have a lust site.
Leaking underground storage tank.
Yeah. And there's a lot. People would be really amazed how many there is in our community. And we're not going to have one that the township owns. That's our goal right there. So this is kind of like the other design concept that we're looking at right here. This is an alternate design we looked at, where you could have the tank off to the side and the fueling stations away from that. What I don't like about this is all the piping is above ground, and just takes somebody to come in there with a backhoe, and not to say DPW guys would do that or anything like that, but if it's up a little bit too high and you smack the pipe right there, that's going to be a problem. So it looks really nice, but this wasn't just an alternative design that we were looking at. So that's really it for that. So tonight, we're looking for board approval to get the design process going. We do have to do a special land use permit with the Planning Commission to build this, so that'll go on an agenda if this is approved tonight with the Planning Commission, to come to them to get special land use permit to build this. It's according to Mr. Oppen, he told me I have to do that. But to expedite these things, or this design, the Public Works, DPW, and Enterprise Fund can sign off and get this going and pay for the design phase of it. The overall cost is not going to be cheap. As you see in the MAIF there, the overall cost is estimated right now around $800K. Now this is how we pay for this. I have my opinion. In the MAIF, I had options and what the township could do, what the board members could decide to do. I think we can reallocate ARPA funds towards this. ARPA funds can be used for a project like this. This is for long sustainability of infrastructure projects that benefit everything. This is right up that alley right there. I think we can do that. But again, that's not my decision, but I wanted to have options for the board to consider and look at it. But to get the ball moving on the design process, looking to have Public Works take the initial share of the initial cost of the design for this project. And then once the funding mechanism has been determined by the board, then we can reallocate or reappropriate the whole cost appropriately.
So a question, the design engineering is 61,695.
For design.
Yeah, design.
Mm-hmm.
And the balance of the 101,195 is for construction engineering.
Correct.
Should we be approving the construction engineering cost now? Is it Because we don't really know what the final design's gonna be, or they, I mean, they're just, I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, I would do it now,
Motion.
Yeah, the motion's.
and it's done. This is to expedite things, you know.
Okay,
Honestly, I would prefer it be done now, so we can get the ball rolling on this.
okay,
We will have to, construction will go out for bid, no doubt about it. That has to go out for bid.
Yeah.
So we're gonna, get that all done. And part of this is they're gonna take us right through the bidding process and right into construction.
but they're gonna
So
cover all the construction.
they're all, yeah, the 101 that's in here in this.
For
is
everything.
All engineering cost.
Okay.
And it also, an engineering cost and to remove the old tanks too. So there's a lot of hoops to jump through with the state of Michigan to remove underground storage tanks, permitting and all that with Lansing regarding fueling stations. All that's taken care of through the engineering proposal before you tonight.
Great, I knew you would have thought about all this in advance.
There's a lot. There's actually, I learned a lot more about how fueling stations need to
Sure.
be built and what's required in the past 3 months that I never knew.
Any comments or questions from the board? Oh,
Where do you guys wash your vehicles?
Pardon me?
Where do you wash them, yeah?
Currently on the side of the DPW building, there's we have a pressure washer right there, and we just use water and just wash off the dirt.
You
And-
considered whether or not you might be a spot over there to look at, since you're putting stuff in anyway, is there something that might be beneficial to, the maintenance and upkeep of the trucks
Mhm.
that works well for your people and helps maintain the values of the vehicles? Just something to think about.
Yeah. It's a good idea, Paul. I never thought of that, to be absolutely honest with you. I didn't think about that, but that's,
And maybe you got some other use for that spot where they were doing it now.
yeah,
okay,
I guess
I'll
my
think
only
about that.
comment, I guess I like the idea of having the tank farm. I think it's a good idea. I guess the only thing I don't like about the proposal is that the water and sewer funds are footing the bill for this initial amount anyway. And I think we need to definitely come up with a strategy to make, because I don't think this, by far, the fire department probably uses more fuel than we do for the rest of the vehicles put together, I would think, so.
Yeah, we did it. We broke down on fuel costs and who uses what the most, and that's one of the options that I have on here is the whole project cost can be split up by on what department uses the most fuel, or we could use ARPA funding, or we could bond it out as a whole, as the township, general fund could bond it out and we all pay back for that bond. That's laid out the options. Just since we don't have that, how we're going to do that, how we're going to pay the bill for this. That's why I want to say that, Public Works will fund this design engineering, get us all done on that. Once the board decides on what method we're going to pay for the whole thing, this $100,000 can be redistributed accordingly. If we break it up to the department, we can get it back that way. Overall, Public Works share is going to be more than $100,000 anyways. I can guarantee you that. So it might be just a wash on
right,
that.
right.
Because we will be paying a lion's share of it, us and
I agree.
fire, no doubt.
Yep.
Sure.
Carrie?
Although I don't like the looks of them being above ground, it's not as appealing to the eye. I agree with the need to bring it above ground since the trouble that we've had with fire recently in the last few years. Wondering though, going forward, once this is installed, and maybe you can give an estimate too to the residents, when are you thinking this would be completed by? What time frame are you looking at? If all
Optimistically, in today's environment with construction, this time next year.
Okay, so within a year. Once it's up and operational,
If not sooner, but
will staff need to have additional training on it being out there and safety provisions, and if things go wrong when it's underground, it's not so much of a safety hazard, but
yeah, it doesn't,
being,
I'm sorry.
I don't know, I just am wondering if there needs to be additional training for staff or people to maintain it, or do
Yeah,
you know that?
There
Or-
will be. It doesn't relieve us of having inspections done, quarterly inspections done as required by the state. So we will, we
Okay.
currently contract that out anyway. So You know, we have to have a third party certified by the state to inspect alarms, condition, recommendations, and all that. As far as filling it up, yes, there'll be some additional training with staff. Public Works employees are gonna handle that. You know, we have in the past with the maintenance and with the existing ones underground right now. We check the fuel every day and monitor the alarms and call in if there's an issue and facilitate repairs that are needed. I think it'll be a lot safer for a lot of reasons. For visually, you know, if you see something right away, you can see it right away. As far as you know the looks, that's where, you know, I'm sure the planning department can come up with some great ideas. The design is great. We can do anything. We can cover it with some trees to make it, you know, more
Screen it.
aesthetic.
Yeah,
You know,
screen
it'll be a
it.
canopy with lighting, of course. You know, I'm gonna insist on that. There's gonna be, you know, we can do all kinds of nice things with the lightings where it's not like a supernova or a space station all night long. They can dim down. If you pull up underneath it, they automatically brighten up so you can see. We've already, with our fiber optic project that came into the DPW building, we also I had them stub off conduit in that direction for this project. Last year I did that because we will tie all the fueling in with the fiber network. Each department can real time sit down and see what their vehicles are pumping. Instead of us sending reports, you can look up and see at real time how much everybody's using. Everybody can see that.
Great.
So that'll all be part of the design phase too. But you're right, Carrie, there'll be some training involved with it, but I think it's nothing that we can't handle.
Okay, just wondered, thank you.
Great. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Paul?
I just, I don't know if that can be done or what we'll do about the cost and how that gets broken up. Whether or not the DPW could recover those costs by charging more for the fuel for the other departments in some fashion, or other, because there must be ongoing costs associated with it, so even after it's paid for, should you be doing an upcharge on fuel to the other departments to cover those incremental costs, even if it's only a few cents per gallon?
Yeah.
But just a thought. You can look at.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways, a lot of things to look at to, you know, essentially spread the pain. I mean, but this is gonna be a worthwhile investment that's gonna last this township a long time.
Let's hope.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Good job.
Okay. Any members of the public wish to weigh in on this? Yes, sir.
Hi, Vincent Bizone, 9725 Foster Road. I was looking at the development plan, and I saw those square temporary guys, right? And so my question was, can't you just get the tanks that you want at the end and just jump over that step? Why can't you install those temporarily and not have those ugly square ones?
Yeah,
That was my question.
Yeah, the tanks are, from what I learned in the past 3 months about how gas stations are built, tanks are, they're not custom made, but they are. You know, they can make a tank, 10,000 gallon tank, but there's plumbing. You know, they put different nozzles on each one and locations based on your design that you're going to do. Thought about that, you know, but again, this is something that it's worthwhile right now, and I think it's at a cost that it's worth spending for these temporary ones. The temporary ones we have right there that you've seen in the slide, our vendor was, our fuel vendor was very nice, and they kind of like took them from somebody else that was using them because they know that this was a priority and that we were in a spot. So we kind of had to make a move on this right away. So, I mean, that's the honest answer on that. You know, you got to spend a little bit now for the temporary, and then it pays off on the end.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else in the public? Anybody online? Is there anybody online? Well, seeing nobody, is there a motion to accept the proposal from DLZ?
I'll move to accept the proposal received from DLZ Michigan of Waterford, Michigan for professional services associated with the design and construction engineering costs for a new fuel farm development as outlined in the agreement in an amount not to exceed $101,195. Approve the reappropriation of funds within the sewer and water distribution system improvement accounts, $50,600 each, and direct the supervisor to sign the agreement as the authorized representative of the township.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work on it, Dave.
Yeah. Next, item number 3. Out-of-state travel for executive development program for Parks, Recreation, and Seniors. Derek?
Yeah, I do want to clarify, there's a spelling error. It's Indiana University, not Indian University, so we're not sending our staff to a non-politically correct executive training program. So, and I'm surprised that made it all the way through the process with as many eyes get on these, but we all missed it, so apologize for that. This is a training program that I've heard a lot about, and I'm actually have been interested in attending it myself. It's a 2-year program at Indiana University. The first year covers customer service, which I think is a crucial thing for our department right now, as social climate seems to be increasing, and we've discussed this quite a bit, in our customer service throughout our park system has become a little bit more challenging. I think that is a very good subject for them to cover. Risky business and how to manage it. Leading when promoted from within. The 2 people that we are proposing to send to this executive director's school have both worked their ways up the rank. They were both colleagues before they became bosses. And they've both kind of struggled with it throughout their tenure and their positions, so that's a key thing for them as well. And the shift keeps happening, which is economic shifts and how you manage your budgets more appropriately. Year 2, equity, parks that serve everyone. This one right here, oddly enough, maybe I don't want them to understand this one, so they're not coming after my job, but power, politics, and how to work with elected officials. Data is your friend, which in the Parks and Rec department, we are a very data-driven department. A lot of data analysis takes place throughout the Parks and Rec department on pricing for different programs and usage fees, usage of all of our programs and facilities. And then recruitment, retention, and relevancy, which also is something that not just us, but Parks and Rec departments across the state and across the country are struggling with recruiting people into our industry right now. You've heard me say several times, we've been really low on staff the last couple of years. We just can't seem to get people to come into our doors, no matter how much we raise our seasonal hourly rates. We just can't seem to get people to want to work outside of our camp program. We were short on lifeguards this year, park staff, and rangers in particular. So I thought it was important for me to note these things. And then secondly, also important to note that this is a 2023 conference year for these 2 individuals. We'll be asking our budget analysis person to defer the payment of these into the 2023 budget, where we've budgeted for it appropriately. The reason I'm bringing it for you now is because we want to take advantage of the early bird pricing, because we're a calendar fiscal year and not June to July fiscal year. It just doesn't line up with our budget very well, so in order for us to take advantage of that fiscal year or that early bird pricing, we need to defer those payments into the next fiscal year. All in all, like I mentioned, I've talked to several people that have attended this particular program in Indiana University. They say it's well worthwhile. They get a lot of good information out of it, and I think it's crucial that the leaders in our department continue to get educated on new practices, continue to get educated on how to manage their divisions and their employees. And I think that the topics are very relevant in today's current climate with the services that we provide. So,
Okay, thank you, Derek. Any comment? Carrie?
Couple questions.
Yep.
Will this serve for any kind of continuing ed for any of their other certifications? Will this help with that?
They both will, yep.
Okay,
Both Jennifer and Lisa are both certified, and these will have continuing education units towards their certifications.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
And will this be something that needs to be recertified after some point in time, or it's a one all get all kind of?
Yeah, it's a one and done
Okay.
program, so it's not something that they will receive a certificate for in a particular portion of our field. it just goes towards their certifications, whether it be a senior certification, or for Lisa, it's her CPRP. So it counts towards our Parks and Recreation certifications that we
Okay,
also
good.
get units through the state conference, national conferences, that sort of thing, so.
Is it something that you might look to send other staff, other senior staff, or is that only as maybe promotions allow or something?
Well, I think it's something that our leadership team, I would like to send a couple of new people every 2 years.
Okay.
Maybe next year Larry and Tim get to go. It just, we have 5 people on our leadership team, and I think it would be really nice if I could get them all down there at some point. But typically, we only send 2 people a year out of state just to kind of keep our costs down and manage our budget a little bit more responsibly, so.
And is it
We drew
something-
straws and they won.
Last
So-
question, sorry. Is this something that's only in person? Is any of it, can any of it be achieved online or
That I
virtually?
do not know.
Okay.
I don't believe there's a virtual option to it, but it's something that we can look into for sure.
I just wonder, because you might be able to take advantage of that and spread it abroad further
Sure.
if that was the case, just so more can take advantage of it, that's all.
It's not anything that was brought to my attention, but it's a good point. We'll surely look into it.
I know networking is great when you're together on site, so
Yep.
sometimes you hate to miss that, but
Right.
that's all. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the board?
I have a comment.
Jose?
Yeah. We spoke earlier on the phone, actually. First of all, Derek, I want to give you kudos for the movies on the parks. It was well done this weekend. It's a lot of great turnout for movies on the park. About this, as you know, I told you, I got a lot of phone calls this morning about this, and some people have concerns about, people brought to my attention that we approve our state education similar to this, just 2 months ago, and it was very beneficial. We saw the picture, it was very good. I support that. And I got 2 phone calls in the morning asking me why we doing this again. It seems like, people brought also to my attention the situation of some of the infrastructure in the parks, like Sashova Plains. People say, and we walked through. I also went with Treasurer Brown too, and I showed him what's going on, the condition and infrastructure. And so people concerned was they would like to see more of the money that we allocate in the budget goes to infrastructure more than we send rebuild time, not several times, I would say a couple times a year, people are to stay for education, where Kerry brought a good point. Maybe we need to find other ways where people maybe can able instead, get those kind of, this type of out of traveler state, maybe we can get online classes or some other classes that may help or the staff, because that was brought to my attention, just so you know.
Sure.
Residents actually called me and brought that to my attention, and I think I recall an email or something as well.
Well, and these conferences, or these particular schools, they do it to make money, obviously, too. I mean, they're not putting it on for free. And even our own state association, one of the most lucrative conferences we ever ran was during COVID, because everybody applied online, but we didn't have to work with any of the hotels. We didn't have to fly speakers out. So, and all the things that typically go with a conference expense. But, and I don't disagree. We can definitely look into the online thing. There will still be a fee associated with it, I would assume, if they offer it. It just depends on what their AV capabilities are. But, outside of the money that we spend within our parks to maintain our parks, we also have the largest staff in the township that we need to train. And I think that what we're sending them to for this in particular executive training hits a lot of the major topics that we deal with in our department on a daily basis. A lot of these topics weren't covered at that national conference that we went to. Out of a almost $4 million budget, to spend a couple $1,000s to get people up to speed with the training that they need to provide better service to our residents, I think is money well spent, so.
Okay, anybody else on the board?
Just as a sub-comment, Jose and I did talk about this this afternoon, and I mentioned to him that this comes out of a separate line item in the budget as well, other than, the projects and the upgrades that may be needed at that park. So you do budget for education, and we plan on that, and education, and I'm a firm believer of additional education. I think it's important to keep us new and active and knowing what the new things are that are out there and how to deal, especially with you, with your department. You've told us a lot this year about some of the attitudes and some of the feedback that our employees have gotten, especially out in the field when they're out in with the public. I think the temperament of the public has changed since COVID, and I think it's important that they go for that. But I also just wanted him to also understand that you can plan and budget otherwise in other line items to help with the parks and updating and things like that. So I thought that was important for the public to also understand. It doesn't necessarily come out of the sort of the same pot, but not necessarily. So.
Yeah, our budget's broken down into the 3 different divisions: Parks, Recreation, and Seniors. And this particular school will be funded out of the Recreation and Senior divisions. So it's not money that we allocate towards the Park division. So, yep.
Okay,
Great point.
thank you. Any members of the public wish to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Linda Bazone, 7925 Foster Road, Clarkston, Michigan, Independence Township. In the age of post-COVID, I know that even our company, we're doing a lot of online training. Is it nice to go to a hotel and have fun with our own people? Yes, it is. But again, I realize that there's 3 different budgets, but it's still taxpayer money. And I'm very frugal in my household, and I hope that the township is very frugal as well. And actually, I was looking, because it sounds like a great seminar, it really does, but I was looking at the National Recreation and Park Association, and they have these same topics available for CEUs, and it's only $50, and some of them are free. Yeah, you have to pay a membership every year, and it's $675, but I looked at them. If you paid for those, it'd be $875 a year versus this trip is going to cost, what do I got on here, $33,644. Now, I know on here we don't have estimated. Do we pay the mileage? Are they flying? Well, how are they getting there?
It should be in that information. Transportation should be
Should be
listed in
driving.
there. If not, then I would assume they're driving.
Yeah, I didn't
And
see
we have
it.
township vehicles for that.
Okay, so now they're going to use township vehicles to go to these seminars. I just think there's a cheaper way of doing it. Yes, education is very important, and I truly believe in that. But, I'm thinking, we need to really save some money, and we need to be tight with our money. And there's ways of getting this education and these CEUs to these employees at a less cost to the taxpayers. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Member of the public? Yes.
Ray Llewellyn, 9254 Pine Knob Road, Clarkston, Michigan. Well, I really back up what she's saying. And, yes, it's nice to go somewhere, like coming here to the meeting versus just watching it online. It's nice to attend. But my husband's an engineer, and he does continuing education, I don't know, every year or every other year for his license. And he does it all online. I mean, if he told me he had to go to some conference, I'd be like, wait a minute. But so I just think that the cost savings of doing it online, that money's of the difference between that saving, the money that would be saved to be put into, maybe more equipment in the parks or something. And I know that, maybe someone would say, well, I'd really like to go there and interact with the other people, but I just think, what's the best for the township as far as the residents? Thank you.
Did you want to respond to that? You don't need to.
I'm good.
You have another comment?
Another comment.
Yes, sir.
I've got a comment. Excuse me. Vincent Bizone, 7925 Foster Road. I'm going to, at the risk of being in big trouble, disagree with my wife, with Ray. And I want to support the idea of sending these folks, okay, off to this conference physically, okay? Because you can't compare a virtual thing with a physical being in a place thing, okay? And if we're going to get the most out of it, I believe you have to be there. There are different classes that you go to, there are different people are talking about stuff, you're making contacts with your fellow professionals in the field who, you know, is source of like networking, and who knows? A lot of things can come out of it, but I think that, you know, I think, did we have, what, $58 million in the bank? And we're arguing about spending a couple of grand to send some staff off to get some needed training?
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Yes,
Can I go home?
Can we get a ride home?
Very bold, very bold. So Sarah Stoyan, 5417 Old Cove Road. I would like to piggyback on what the two ladies were talking about. Oops, sorry. Obviously, I have young children. I have one who's in 4th grade and one in 2nd. We are very involved in the Parks and Rec department. I recently, this last year, had the privilege of coaching one of our TR travel softball teams. Absolutely amazing. Love those people. But with that being said, and I live right across the street from Sashwell Plains Park, which is the park we go to play. I mean, we don't have mulch. There's not mulch. There hasn't been mulch for years. The sand court looks like blown in rocks from the parking lot. That's where the TR people play, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like, I have a 58-year-old man. These people are disabled. Like, some of them have a hard time walking, and that's where they play. That's where other cities come and play. There's not an orange bag at the first base for safety. So it is a little disheartening to see, like, oh, we're going to spend some money for some leadership, you know, when I'm a volunteer. I don't get paid. I did ask, we need to show these kids, these guys, these special needs, like, we're here for them. You go to Lake Orion, you see handicap parks, you see stuff for wheelchairs, you see swings. We have nothing over here for that. Like I said, this is like their pride and joy, and it's amazing. It means everything to them. I mean, I went to the TR prom, and they had 5 pieces of candy, and the raffle was Johnny Rockets paper hats. It was embarrassing. My donation pile to Salvation Army could have been better than that. I had called and asked about maybe making special signs for these guys. I mean, and these girls that play. I mean, I have a 58-year-old man that plays. I mean, they're not these little kids. Okay, this is everything to them. Let's make them feel special. Let's make them know that their town is behind them. Oh, that's not in the budget. Okay, they're $10 a sign. I have a guy who make it at cost for me. And we have 5 sponsors for this league. It's just kind of interesting. My daughter, who can play 9-year-old softball, pays just a little bit more than these people who also pay to play, and get kind of the same thing, the equipment, they get the uniform, but they have 5 sponsors. So I want to know where that money is going. We do nothing special for them. The banquet, I heard, was $40 donated, and the other lady who's retiring spent $400 of her own money to make this happen for them. So I've personally seen a lot of holes in this budgeting, in the park that we play at, in the TR department, which is grossly mismanaged, and it'll probably go under if something isn't fixed in that part. I can get a lot more parents in here that need to speak up more, and I've had conversations, and nothing's been done. But so it is very disheartening that my kids go over there. I mean, that very outdated playscape, looks like the slide in Detroit. You go down it, it's crazy. It's a crazy park. We can do better. We can absolutely do better. So to see this kind of take precedence too over mulch for my kids to play at, or things like that, it stinks. But anyway, it's I just think that there could be a lot better, well spent in this town for our kids, especially for the TR department. We need to do better for them, and we can do better. That's my thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a comment.
I don't want to, if I can, I don't really want to spend all night on Sashwell Plains Park, but to have you know, the whole reason that the Miracle League of Oakland County was built was because I applied for the application for that ball field to have it here in Clarkston first. And when I offered our TR community to have that ball field put at Sashabaw Plains, they preferred to have it over at Friendship Park in Orion Township, and we ended up doing a cooperative partnership between us, the Easter Seals, and Orion Township. So it didn't work out. I led the charge. I actually was very disheartened by our TR program when I first became the director here and went to Sashabaw Plains. And the reason I applied for that Miracle League field is because I watched our participants with disabilities try to push strollers across those ball fields at Sashabaw Plains, and it was so disheartening that I looked into it and applied for that Miracle League field. So we could have had that field right here at Sashabaw Plains, but the decision was made to move it to the neighboring township. And again, when I first got here 6 years ago, our park system was in complete disrepair. And we've had to pick and choose because we don't have or get the money that we need to be able to repair everything at once. We've had to kind of repair the parks that get the most use first. We've had to repair the amenities first that get the most volume of people. So Sashabaw Plains is on our list. We are discussing currently on ripping out both of those ball fields and starting over. We've got plans for a new parking lot there to put our participants closer to the actual amenities. Everything from grill replacements to pavilion replacements. We've been kicking the tires on this for years. It's just a matter of where we find the money. And, we can only write $1,000 a year for one amenity per year. And unfortunately, because of the complete disrepair that this park system was in 6 years ago, we just haven't had the appropriate funding to get to everything we need to get to. It's on the list, and good things are coming for that park. It's just, we've had to display a little bit of patience along the way, too.
Thanks, Derek. It's really helpful having that bigger picture.
Sure.
Any other public comments on out-of-state travel? Terry?
My comment was about when she spoke, and I'm glad you clarified that Miracle Field, because I remember when that opened and I went there, and I thought that was a joint venture, so maybe I misunderstood. I thought we have just as much right to use it as they do, because I thought it was part of our township that helped pay for that as well. So are we not accessing the benefits of that place?
Our younger participants, they can register through the Easter Seals and then participate in the programs on that field, but we have absolutely nothing to do with it. Yeah.
Just to clarify, my league is like 14 up. So
Yeah,
like,
they're
right.
old,
So those are
are
more
older.
younger or like more handicapped, like really severely handicapped, like because it's a level field, the Miracle Field.
Right.
But you don't age out of that one, do you?
I'm sorry?
Do you age out of the Miracle?
Some of our softball programs do age out.
Can we
just
carry
because
on
it's
this
too small.
discussion
So, yeah.
later? This is out-of-state travel.
Sorry.
Yep.
Right,
But I was
thank you.
gonna say Sashabaw Plains, like again, with the redistributing of money.
We've
and
got,
it's a low income
we've got the message.
area.
We got the message. I appreciate you coming in. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Did you have another comment?
Yeah, I have another comment, Jerry. So basically, I mean, I tell you, and besides I talked to several people during the summer, the perception is there that people wants their money or part of the money in the budget utilized in the parks. And I agree with you there. It's a lot of things have to be done. We spoke before, we want great things for the park. At least in the next following months, I'm looking forward to working with you to improve all the parks. It's gonna be a top priority in my agenda to fix, improve the infrastructure in the parks. I'm gonna looking forward working with you about that. But the perception of people is that some of the money now is going for trips, educational, more than to fix some of these parks. I went to the park with you. I mean, some of the things are rusted, some of the things need to be updated. That's why people this morning, other people also called me this morning and asked me about it. So that's all my comment.
Thank you. Any other comments? Paul?
I just want to share, I guess, and point something out here. Our Parks Director was one of the last two people who were in the running to be the new head of the Oakland County Park System. Am I right about that?
That is correct.
So the township has somebody that was one of the last two people standing to be in charge of all the Oakland County parks. And so the reason I say that is that there's more to this than just an educational component. I believe the two people who are going to this are some of your best. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So what we're looking at is two of, out of a whole lot of employees who are professional parks people. And we have to remember that. While we are in the parks playing, and it is an amazing thing, and I agree with pretty much everything that's been said from everyone who said it, these are run by professionals. And this is more than, to me, it's more than just a training thing. It's something they have earned, and it's something that is important for their development as professionals. And it also motivates other parks employees to say, I want to be at that level where I'm going to go get this kind of training. And I do want people to remember, we are dealing with parks professionals, and they're educated, and it's really something that we need to do well for our parks employees so that we can have the best here. Because if we don't, other communities will want them. And I just thought that was important to share. So.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any further comments, so.
Excuse me, just a comment. So you're saying that Derek is looking for a job right now? That's what he says?
No,
I
this
understand
happened,
something-
this
No,
was.
it's Oakland was-
Oakland County had an opening for parks directors
Okay,
last year.
okay,
Or 2 years ago.
Or 2 years ago.
okay.
He was one of, we're all aware of it, he was one
Oh,
of the
I didn't
last two
know.
candidates for that position, and the other person got it.
Okay.
He wasn't
All right.
looking, they came to
Oh, you
him.
come to him, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But he
Sorry.
loves it here, and he's here, and we're lucky to have him.
Well, thank you for that.
Thanks. All right.
All right, is there a motion on this item?
I'll move to approve the out-of-state travel for Parks and Recreation and senior employees Lisa Christensen and Jennifer Angus to attend the 2023 and 2024 Executive Development Program through Indiana University on April 16th through 19th, 2023, and in April 2024, dates not yet released, subject to compliance with all travel policies in the Township Employees Policy and Procedure Manual.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion?
Aye, nay.
Jose, you're?
Yeah.
No.
No,
Okay.
okay, no.
Okay. So Derek, now we have three more items. If you're,
Keep rolling.
items 4, 5, and 6, 3 Brady Lodge rentals.
Yes, these ones should go a little quicker. And I just, one more time, once we get even more comfortable with this process, eventually we do want to move these to the consent agenda.
Correct.
But we still have quite a few of these rentals with alcohol that we seek legal counsel for. So, but we're starting to get more familiar with the process, Dan, so hopefully we won't be bothering you with them too much longer. But the first one is for a rental of Brady Lodge for the Clarkson Chamber of Commerce Murder Mystery Event. This is an event that they hosted last year at Brady Lodge as well, and they had a great deal of success with it, so they decided to come back. That's it.
Okay, and I think the May spells out the terms. And are there any questions then, or comments by members of the board?
I can just have one comment. It kind of goes for all of them again, and I think I brought this up at the last time, or last couple times anyway, about the Brady Lodge doesn't have any heat or air conditioning, so hopefully that each of these rental occupants understand that.
They're aware.
Okay.
I make a comment. So. Around is a good point. Actually, Derek and I, we met last week and we were talking about it. Derek is working on it. All right, you got a quote already, right, Derek?
We actually had a study done through Norwalk and Frous, our engineering firm. They hired a company called Matrix who deals with historical buildings and heating and cooling of historical buildings in particular. I got to be honest with you, the three prices that they came back with and the three systems that they had suggested, they were so expensive I've been embarrassed to put them in front of you, so we're trying to seek alternate options. let's just say that the cheapest option that they proposed was about $580,000 to heat and cool that building. So, and the most expensive one was upwards of $8.
Got a fireplace, right? So.
Yeah, well, not to get off too far on Brady, but it's a cinder block building with no insulation and a roof with no insulation, and any heating or cooling you put in there just seeps out the walls. And in the wintertime with snow on the roof, and you put heat in that building and it melts the snow, and then it creates ice dams and damages the roof. So there's quite a bit of other things other than just heating and cooling that have to go into it to get that building where it needs to be. So once we kind of work with the engineers and try to find some options that are somewhere between the 250 we have set aside for heating and cooling and that low option of 580, I'll be happy to bring it back to the board, but I wouldn't spend $580,000 on a heating and cooling bill. You know, I wouldn't want to bring it in front of you and try to sell it to you because it's just not fair. So.
Okay. Anybody else on the board? Any member of the public wish to speak to this? Anybody online? All right, seeing none, Paul has stepped out. I assume we should go ahead and vote. I don't think there's going to be an issue. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve the Clarkson Area Chamber of Commerce rental of Brady Lodge for Thursday, October 20, 2022.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 5, this is a Brady Lodge rental agreement with Lily.
Yes, this is for a wedding on September 2nd of 2023. So they're working a year out now. So we're really starting to pick up steam with rentals at Brady. We've run into a little bit of an issue with the fall weddings and rentals because we have a lot of homecoming people from Waterford and from Clarkston that like to come and take pictures in front of Brady Lodge while we have renters inside the building. So the fall is getting a little bit tricky for us, and we're trying to work on a few ways that we can make everyone happy. But this one in particular is for September of next year. All of the information, insurance, licenses, everything are connected, so they're good to go.
Any questions, comments by the board? Paul? Or Ron?
Okay. Not to try and make it more complex or whatever, but since this is like a year out, say we do improvements to the lodge, or what about the rental fee? Is it like guaranteed like a year out, or is it subject to change based if we change Brady Lodge?
I'm kind of working on the assumption that I'm hoping that we have something accomplished there by September of next year.
Okay, so I mean,
I'm hedging my bets that I'm renting this out in the fall, knowing that I'm putting myself on a time clock to make sure that we have heating and cooling in there before fall.
well, what I'm getting at is that it's basically you're guaranteeing this rate for next year then.
Yes.
That's what you're saying, okay.
Yep.
Very good.
In exchange for our no risk because we've got a renter,
Right.
which is good.
Yeah.
A good trade-off.
Hopefully.
Any other discussion, questions? Members of the public? Anybody online? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve the rental agreement and all submitted documents for the use of alcohol at Baycore Park, Brady Lodge, as presented for September 2nd, 2023, private rental.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and double seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and finally, a Brady Lodge rental to Reinhardt.
Yes, the Reinhardt wedding is actually taking place October 29th. So this is going to be a smaller wedding, obviously. They decided to expedite their process. So we just happen to have the facility open, and yes, they're aware that it's going to be a little chillier in there this time of year, but they're moving forward with it, and we're happy to accommodate them, so.
And all the paperwork is completed and full?
All the boxes are checked.
Great. Any questions, comments by the board? Members of the public? Anybody online? Now, is there a motion?
Move to approve the rental agreement and all submitted documents for the use of alcohol at Bay Courts Park, Brady Lodge, is presented for the October 29th, 2022 private rental.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, Derek, last but not least, replacement of the 72-inch X-Mark mower.
Now down to taking care of our facilities, right? So we had actually gotten approved $15,000 in our capital improvement plan this year to replace one of our 72-inch deck mowers for our athletic facilities. The local Weingart store here has a government pricing rate that brings the price of these mowers down about $4,000 from any other distributor that we were able to find. I know, Carrie, I had told you that there was a place in Grand Rapids, which was a Weingart's representative in Grand Rapids. If you go to their site, there's Farmington Hills, there's Novi. They didn't have a Grand Rapids store listed on there. But the online price for this mower is $19,999. The local Weingart store is, because of the government contract that they have, we can get the mower for $15,999. So the way I approached this was I wrote a memo to both the supervisor and the clerk regarding a sole source provider. The local Weingart store is an X-Mark dealer. We take all of our mowers there to be serviced. We've purchased probably all the mowers since I've been here. We've purchased through that particular store for their service program. So we're looking to follow suit with this in particular mower as well. So there's quotes attached. I think the next cheapest one might have been $17,800, but they no longer have it in stock. That was in Bern, Kansas, so that's even before a delivery charge. They had them listed online anywhere up to over $20,000. So here's one in Arlington, Illinois for $22,200. So I think the price is the best we can do. I haven't been able to find anybody that can beat it. Again, they're our local dealer and they do all the repairs on all the X-Mark mowers in our fleet. So, like I said, I'd follow the procedure of collecting all of the data, turning in a memo to the clerk and the supervisor, which they approved the purchase, but we brought it in front of the board just because it is working through a different area of our procurement policy through the sole source provider literature in that document. So in all fairness, we bring it to the board for a vote.
Okay. Any questions or comments? None from the board. Any members of the public? Anybody online? Is there a motion to purchase a mower?
I'll move to approve the quote pursuant to the township procurement, petty cash, and credit card policy, my favorite one. Section number 2, 3.6, sole source provider from Weingarts of Clarkston for a 72-inch X-Mark Laser X Series 980 mower in the amount not to exceed $15,999.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion by the board?
I'll make a quick comment.
Yes.
People hear us talk about our procurement policies, probably on a regular basis. I think it's super important to have these policies in place. Sometimes it makes it a little more difficult, but the reason they're important, and even to the point where sometimes we may pay more for something than you might find out there, our policies are because we have to protect taxpayer dollars. And so there's another layer to this thing. It's not our money, and so having really tight controls in place is because of that. And so I just thought I'd throw that out there. We hear it a lot, and sort of an explanation.
Thank you. Any other members of the board that want to comment, question? Any members of the public? Anybody online? If not, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Derek.
Thanks, Derek. Next item on the agenda is kind of a multi-motion project here for us, and we're making appointments
to fill ad hoc or liaison advisory committees. And the first one on the list is for the audit. Let's see. It's the Audit Advisory Committee. And the proposed for membership on that would be Paul Brown, treasurer, and Ron Ritchie, trustee.
Which I think you're doing this because this was the treasurer position before. And since we're changing treasurers,
Yes,
that's what we're doing this?
yes.
Because I was already on the committee, so,
Your term hasn't expired?
no, it was till the end of my term, so.
I don't believe that we actually reappointed you with the new term, so
Okay.
this is to correct that.
All right, well, I was on it previously, so.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
This is just paperwork.
all right, fine.
Any questions, comments by board members or members of the public? Or
Sure.
Jose.
I saw this and I spoke with you early, and then I spoke with Treasurer Brown about some of these appointments, and then it's about the section E, about the.
We're not there yet.
Oh no, so we're gonna
We're
go
just-
by
one by one.
one. Okay. Oh no, I don't have a question about that. I
Okay.
know.
Very good. Anybody else online or in the public? Is there a motion then?
I move to appoint Paul A. Brown, treasurer, and Ronald A. Ritchie, trustee, as a member of the Audit Advisory Committee with terms to expire with their terms on the Charter Township of Independence Board of Trustees.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item B is for the Information Technology Oversight Committee, commonly known as ITOC. And this is for a term to expire with the term of office. And the concept here would be to appoint Paul Brown to this as well, to replace Rachel Lofgren, who had been on it as treasurer. Any comments? Any comments or questions by members of the public? Anybody online? Hearing none, is there a motion for this committee?
I move to appoint Paul Brown, treasurer, as ex officio member of the Information Technology Oversight Committee, ITOC, with terms to expire with his term on the Charter Township of Independence Board of Trustees.
Is there a
Second.
Moved and seconded. Okay, any other discussion? Did I ask for comments from the board? And
Yes,
from
you
the audience?
You did.
Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item C, another appointment slated tentatively for Paul Brown, treasurer, as ex officio member of the Investment Advisory Committee. Sounds like an appropriate committee for the treasurer, to expire with his term. Any discussion, comment, question by the board? Any members of the audience or the public? Online? Is there a motion for item C?
Move to appoint Paul A. Brown, treasurer, as ex officio member of the Investment Advisory Committee with term to expire with his term on the Charter Township of Independence Board of Trustees.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item D, this is another item slated for Paul Brown, treasurer, for ex officio member of the Water and Sewer Ad Hoc Advisory Committee. Any discussion, question, dialogue on this?
You sound like a broken record. Just kidding.
I wish we could do them all at once.
I know.
I wish we could do them all at once. Any members of the public? Anybody online? All right, is there a motion?
Move to appoint Paul A. Brown, treasurer, as an ex officio member of the Water and Sewer Ad Hoc Advisory Committee with term to expire with his term on the Charter Township of Independence Board of Trustees.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item E. Yes, sir.
I realize that Treasurer Loughran held this position I think that.
This is for SEMCOG, everybody, just so that
Yeah, we're looking
everybody
at the
knows.
SEMCOG, Southeast Michigan Council on Governments. For me, I see this as something that the supervisor would be a lot more actively involved with, and I don't wish to be appointed to this. I think appropriately it would be the supervisor, but I would make a motion, a move to appoint, because he's very likely going to be. Oh, wait, when can we do it?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think we
I
have-
decline, so I'm declining.
So we should just
appointment to
defer
this.
this until
We defer
after
it,
the
because
term of office
yes, I
starts.
think I'm the appropriate person.
Right.
All right,
Thank you,
so,
Gary. Appreciate that.
yeah,
That's okay, right? Okay.
You could appoint him now as a trustee and then reappoint him again after the
Yeah.
thing.
well, you have to reappoint him again.
That's okay, because if there's
Well, I
some
don't know if there's a meeting
participating, why
between
not?
now and then or not.
Can I do that?
It's a month.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
Go.
there's something he wants to get right into.
Make the motion.
All right. I move to appoint trustee Jose Aliaga as the liaison to the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, SEMCOG, with term to expire with his term on the Charter Township of Independence Board of Trustees.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any member of public wish to speak before we vote on this? Anybody online? Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Final item under this list is the Lake Improvement Board. And this again is something that Rachel Lochran had been on, representative on the, or you had been
That's
on it
incorrect.
before.
She's been on the mill.
This is a reappointment?
Right, this is a reappointment for you, but this time as treasurer.
Right.
For the Walters Lake Improvement Board. Any discussion on this? Any member of the public wish to weigh in on this? Anybody online? Paul?
I just wanted just to point out that by happenstance, the former treasurer also served on the lake board, John Lutz, who also lived on the lake, which it's somewhat coincidental. I think the treasurer has generally since then been the liaison or on the Walters Lake Improvement Board. I live on Walters Lake. The money that's spent here is not taxpayer money, it's people who live on the lake's money. So I think anyone who was concerned that I'm sitting on a board where I live, I think that concern for me, there isn't one, because everyone who lives on the lake and off the lake, some people contribute to that as well, who have access to it. We're using those funds, and I guess from a legal opinion, never really asked for one on this, but Mr. Kelly, am I correct in assuming that there's not an issue with me serving on that lake board, given that I live on that lake?
Right, no issue.
Okay, I just wanted to bring it up. People know I live there, and I thought I'd point that out.
Carrie?
Technically, though, you've changed your voter registration and you're not living there currently, correct?
Oh, I don't live there.
That is not an issue.
I rented my house out and moved into my mom's to take care of her, but I still own property there, so it's the same issue. But thank you for pointing that out. I did change it, so.
Yes.
Okay, any member of the public on this one? Online? Is there a motion?
Move to reappoint Paul A. Brown, treasurer, as the township representative on the Walters Lake Improvement Board with a term to expire with his term on the Charter Township of Independence Board of Trustees.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so we move to item number 9. I'm going to reword this a little bit because this has to do with a request to appoint Leanna Cole to continue employment after her actual term will expire because she won't really be a deputy supervisor after her term expires because somebody else is going to be appointed. And so it's really to continue the employment relationship with Leanna Cole. Would that be fair, Dan?
Yeah, that is fair. Right. The motion, I think, is accurate, but that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, let's see, do you want to discuss this?
Sure. It's not like we're gonna have two deputy supervisors. It's just like you state, it's just extending Leanna contract, but it's gonna be a healthy transition. Again, as you know, Jennifer is gonna be the new deputy supervisor, and then I talked to Leanna Cole about giving extra time so we have a healthy transition. If maybe Jennifer has some questions or some history, I believe then Liana can help us out. And Liana agree with that. Liana also mentioned that she may leave early. Because she's active also looking for employment. But I actually asked Dan Kelly to look into this and then help me out with draft this, and is everything good? So.
Okay, and just to clarify for the public, this would be, she would continue employment at the same rate of pay that she is now.
That's correct.
Yeah. Any other comments or discussion by the board? Paul?
Just that when I heard it, I think it's a really good idea. You don't want things to fall through the cracks when there are transitions around election time and when people change, leave and other people come in. And I appreciate her willingness to support this idea. I don't think that's an easy thing to do, and I certainly respect it. And I thought it was a good idea that Trustee Aliaga moved forward to try and make this happen. So,
thank you.
Any other discussions, questions, comments? Members of the public? Anybody online? Okay, is there a motion to continue the employment of Leanna Cole?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Move to approve the offering the current Deputy Supervisor Liana Cole as a temporary position at her same pay and benefit from the time a new Deputy Supervisor is appointed through December 30, 2022, on the condition of acceptable employment agreement approved by the Board of Trustees and employed together with any other approvals deemed necessary by the Township Attorney and approve the necessary budget adjustment.
second.
Moved and seconded. Members of the public? Anybody online? Any further discussion by the board? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 10, a request to conditionally appoint Jennifer Spiegel as Deputy Supervisor for the township, and this, notice that this is conditionally, that'll take effect upon Supervisor Aliaga becoming Supervisor of the township.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why do we have to do that? It's Jose can do whatever he wants on that. I mean, I don't recall the board ever making a move to appoint someone to a deputy position because it's at Jose's.
Wait, he can't do it now.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the past practice is. My experience has been that the board does appoint the recommended deputy supervisor.
Oh, we can always change then, huh?
Right. Now, in this circumstance, we're doing it prior to his power to do it. So it's effective November 21st, which would be the first day after his swearing in, and I think that's because Ms. Spiegel needs some advance notice with her current employer.
No problem.
I'm just wondering if we're doing this because statutorily a supervisor does not have to have a deputy, and maybe that's why it has to be approved from the board?
Well, that is
Where a
accurate.
treasurer and a clerk
there you
is
go.
required to have a deputy, but a supervisor is not.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
this is the.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So there are lots of reasons for us to do it here.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay.
Carrie.
Any other comments or questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Any member of the public?
Maybe Jennifer wants to speak.
Yeah, maybe Jennifer would like to say a few words.
Is Jennifer here?
Yes, is Jennifer right here?
Oh, hello, Jennifer. Please, if you care to speak.
I'd just like to say that, hi, I haven't met you, Jerry, yet.
Correct.
But, I look forward to this opportunity to work with all of you and to work with Jose and to work in this community that I was born and raised in. I've, had the pleasure to work with the village for the last 5 years, and I look forward to this opportunity with you.
Great. And I can pass along to you and everybody in the public that the village is very sorry to see you go. They really think highly of you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion by the board? Members of the public? Online? Is there a motion?
Move to conditionally appoint Jennifer Spiegel as a Deputy Township Supervisor as an at-will employee and at the same rate of pay and benefits as the current Deputy Township Supervisor, beginning of November 21st, 2022, conditioned up to employee acceptance and Trustee Jose Aliaga being elected to the position of Township Supervisor on November 8, 2022, and consequently being sworn in on or before November 20, 2022.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, that completes the regular business of the board. We move to item M, which is a closed session. We have on the agenda is a proposal for a closed session to discuss confidential legal opinion pursuant to Michigan Compiled Law 15.268H and 15.243(1)G regarding a personnel matter. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
I move to enter into closed session to discuss confidential legal opinion pursuant to MCL stated previously regarding a personnel matter.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Treasurer Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Aliaga?
Yes.
Trustee Nalamothu? Yes. Trustee Ritchie?
Yes.
Supervisor Fisher?
Yes.
And Clerk Newbeck, yes. The motion carried.
For the benefit of the members of the public, I don't expect that we'll come back to take action, but I can't promise that. So we'll be out of pocket here. You do a great job. We know you weren't sleeping. All right, we're back. We need a motion to come out of closed session. Is there a motion?
I move to return from closed session and to resume the regular meeting at 8:25 PM.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So we have communications, report, Oakland County Sheriff Department monthly report, September 2022. Building Department activity report, September 2022. Minutes of the Video Center Administrative Board, final, April 13, 2022. And minutes of the ITAC meeting, final, September 13, 2022. Minutes of the Election Commission, final, September 26, 2022. Board member comments?
Just
Jose.
one comment. I want to thank all the board members here for support me for my new deputy supervisor, Jennifer Spiegel, and also want to congratulate Jennifer for her appointment. And you know she's gonna be a great deputy supervisor working with all of us. And once again, I want to thank from the bottom of my heart all the board members here. Thank you for your support.
Okay. Any other comments?
I can't believe I forgot this earlier. I wanted to thank the fire department and them for their open house they had over the weekend. It was fabulous. They had some great demonstrations, and it was a lot of fun, and neat to see what they do every day for their living, but it was great to see all the kids getting involved, and they had a blast. So I want to thank the department for putting that on for the community.
Thank you. Good comment. Anybody else? Okay. Dan, did you have a comment? No. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So
Move to
moved.
adjourn.
Move to adjourn, second?
Second?
Second. All in
Sorry,
favor?
Carrie.
That's
Aye.
okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Adjourn.